Good evening. Today is September 10th, 2024. The time is now 5:30 p.m. This meeting of Georgetown County Council is now being called to order. I do see we have a quorum present, and thank you all for being here this evening. We'll ask Councilor Carolina to give us an invocation and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come together this day asking for guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Allow us to grow closer as elected officials in nurturing the bonds of our communities. Strengthen and bless this country and this great experiment known as democracy as we're experiencing these challenging times. Let us continue to emphasize each citizen's responsibilities for protecting and defending our Constitution, which is the basis for this country's great heritage and foundation. Continue to remind us that all we do as stewards over the land is for the greater glory of you in service to humanity and progress in Georgetown County. Continue blessings and peace to our county, state, and country. In your mighty name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor Carolina. We move on down to the approval of our agenda. Please note that there's been a request from the applicant to defer item 9B, ordinance number 24-40. With that being said, is there a motion to approve the published agenda? The move by Councilor Carolina, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move down into our public comment section. A public comment period is included on each meeting agenda and shall be limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. No speaker may yield his/her allotted time to another speaker. Members of the public who wish to address council during the public input period should sign up with the clerk of council before the meeting is called to order. Please note that we have a timer on the screen, and we ask you to adhere to that particular timer. When your time is up, please stop your comments, okay? Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up this evening?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 7 speakers signed up, and as you stated, they will each have 3 minutes. Our first speaker is Billy Nichols.
Good evening. My name is Billy Nichols, and I'm here tonight to provide you with some information on my request to rezone 58 Channel Bluff Avenue from R10 to neighborhood commercial. In February of 2024, we did rezone the adjacent property, 46 Channel Bluff Avenue, from R10 to NC, while also downzoning the parcels on Ocean Highway from GC to NC. We originally requested all the parcels be rezoned GC, but due to concerns from the neighbors, we changed our application from GC to NC. The only reason we added 58 Channel Bluff to our original plan was the architect had concerns about rooms for parking while working around the 24-inch live oak on 46 Channel Bluff Avenue. Page 1 of the information I provided shows the original conceptual plan from when we rezoned 46 Channel Bluff Avenue this past February. Page 2 shows our proposed conceptual site plan where the building location stays the same. The only difference is 58 Channel Bluff is included and gives us the room needed for parking and 1 storage building, which will be located as far away from Channel Bluff Avenue as possible. The parking area will not be paved parking lot. It will be an impervious surface with very minimal lighting depending on what the county will require. When we started this process, there were 4 structures total on 4 parcels. If we are approved, there would be the same number of commercial properties as same number of commercial buildings and 1 small storage building on 2 parcels. This represents a decrease in density. Picture 1 on page 3 shows the mobile home, which was on 58 Channel Bluff, and the old single-family home, which would be removed from 46 Channel Bluff. We believe by removing these structures, we are improving the aesthetics of the street. 58 Channel Bluff Avenue was for sale for 350 days as a residential property, and no one purchased it. The neighbors initially reached out to us wanting to know if we would like to purchase, and we declined. Long after the listing expired, we approached the seller about purchasing it per the architect's recommendations so we could have additional space we needed for parking and storage. Page 4 will show the canopy of the 42-inch live oak on 58 Channel Bluff covers a very large portion of the lot. Our plan to use 58 Channel Bluff for a parking area would keep the live oak. If a residential house were to be built on this lot, I believe it is very likely several large sections of this 42-inch live oak would have to come down, and it's possible someone could prove the lot to be unbuildable unless completely removing this beautiful live oak. My understanding of the county tree ordinance is if someone proves they cannot build the house they want on a lot without cutting down the entire tree, it is possible they can get permission to remove such a massive live oak. Again, our plan keeps this 42-inch live oak as well as the 24-inch live oak on 46 Channel Bluff Avenue, as we do not want to see them removed. In closing, we are a family-owned business who has had an office in Garden City Beach. Thank you.
Paul Barnes.
Good evening. I'm here as a taxpayer of this county to question why we hired this firm, I believe out of North Carolina, concerning the comprehensive plan, and they did, I guess, a nice job. But now our staff decides we don't need to worry about the natural resources that were, according to what I've read here, and if I'm wrong, I'd like to be corrected. But this is like you just neutered the whole thing. It changed the whole complex of this comprehensive plan. So, I'm just complaining. I have nothing. This is still I read it was a staff decision, not a county decision, not a council decision. And if that be true, then I am still upset. If it was a council decision, I'm still upset. I would suggest, we paid for something we didn't use. So I bought 2 cars, I only used one of them. Thank you.
Mary Beth Klein.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and council members. I'm here to speak about the process for moving forward on the natural resources element, and to specifically remind everyone first that the South Carolina Planning Enabling Act of 1994, Article 3, Section 6-29-520 requires, quoting, any amendment, extension, or addition to this element must be by resolution of the Planning Commission carried by a majority of affirmative votes. The point is that from the first draft until now, there have been many changes, some still in discussion. So this must, by law, go back to the Planning Commission before it comes to council. We'll remind everyone that the first draft of this element was approved unanimously by the Planning Commission, and rightly so. It was the outstanding work of Matt Millwood, who worked together with all of the stakeholders to draft a plan that was an excellent balance of county needs and environmental protection. Between the first and second reading, however, someone tipped those scales by redlining more than 50% of the goals and objectives, many of which are critically important to our natural resources and quality of life going forward, like water quality, wetland protection, plastic waste, etc. There was much protest regarding those red lines, which ultimately and wisely was deferred. Thank you. Here we are now, 1.5 years later, and many in our community and stakeholder groups are requesting that our planning department and planning commission revert back to the first draft of this element and again sit down with the stakeholders to have a dialogue on any proposed red lines and revisions. This is critically important work which will impact this area for generations to come. Please treat it as such. Thank you.
Cindy Person.
Good evening. My name is Cindy Person. I'm here tonight as legal counsel for Parkersville residents. I'm here to speak about the proposed amendment to the GR ordinance that's on your agenda this evening. Reducing the maximum units per acre allowed in the GR zoning from 16 to 12 in and of itself is a meaningless gesture to residents of the Parkersville minority community, where there's a great deal of GR zoning on land that both the old comprehensive plan and the new plan designate for a maximum of 5 units per acre. Changing the GR ordinance to allow 12 instead of 16 on land that's designated for 5 does not solve the problem of bringing zoning into accordance with the comprehensive plan. There are already a number of lawsuits pending over this issue that Georgetown County has failed to correct, and this still will not correct the problem if this is the extent of your revision to the GR ordinance. Last year, Bob Anderson proposed a solution to this problem by the addition of some language that would require development proposals under the GR ordinance to comply with the comprehensive plan. It's very simple, it's very neat, it's very clean, it's just a text amendment. I was hoping to see that revision on tonight's agenda. When I pulled the packet yesterday, I was disappointed to find that it was not there. Although we did not choose to fill council chambers tonight because you have a lot going on, trust me when I tell you that citizens of the Waccamaw Neck, and especially residents of the Parkersville community, are watching what you do with this very closely. We beg you to add this language to your ordinance revision. Thank you.
Johnny Ford.
Good afternoon, I'm Johnny Ford, and I too want to speak on behalf of the Parkersville minority community, where I live and represent. Majority of our residents, time and time again, they just wanted their voices to be heard about this GR ordinance, the revision of it, and what's going on in our communities. It's touching very close to my home personally on what's going on, as I'm looking forward to welcoming development. But when I see what's happening right down from me, it's kind of disheartening on what's happening into the minority community. My voice represents so many other voices that time and time again we come and say, listen to those of us who live in this community for 30, 40, 50 plus years. Our seniors have been coming to these meetings and it seems like everything is falling on deaf ear, because I'm looking at this development down from us, and what's happening is it's really, it's sometimes hard to put in words how they're treating, if this is going to be an example of what's happening with the density of the new development that's come in. When I'm talking about what's happening is the just disregard of the neighborhood. With the trucks coming in, it's already like blocking off our roads. We understand what has to happen for the development, but it's a total disregard of the residential community that's going on. So our community has suffered for years because of, I believe, the county's failure to align the zoning with the comprehensive plan, as well as other residents from our Parkersville community. And I'm just asking that tonight you have an opportunity to address this problem, or we can continue, like what so many residents say, when you come and participate with us in our community forums in the Parkersville area, we feel like so much is just falling on empty gestures that are happening to us. So tonight, we just, as I represent the Parkersville community, we're just asking that something be done, but you just please do the right thing. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Lee Bone.
Good evening. Let me start out first by just telling you thank you, all of you, for your service. Thank you for the time and the effort that you put in to help us live in such a great county. And that goes for our administrator, our attorney, all the other directors and officials that are in here. It takes us all to make this place what it is. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but it is a place where we're committed to seeing it improve. And so thank you. I'm Lee Bone, and I am honored to serve as your probate judge for this county. Probate court is a special place. It's how I often describe it. One of the divisions that many people don't realize probate is tasked with addressing is the therapeutic court division. That is where someone is a danger to themselves or a danger to others because of substance abuse, mental illness, and they may need to have an involuntary court order. My involvement with that court has led me to the reason I stand before you tonight. I work with many community partners in a collaborative group trying to find our way through some of the hardest, most difficult issues many of our friends, neighbors, and families face. What we have before you, and I've passed it up before the meeting, is an invite to an event that will be held next Thursday at Howard Gym from 2 to 4:30. It is free. It is not just for you, although I would love to see all of you there, and I hope that I do, but it is also for any members of the public that are ready to do something. Not say that it's for someone else to do something, but are ready to do something. This may look a little confusing, and some people have asked if it's a walk. It is not a walk. I'm not discounting walks for awareness. They serve a great purpose. This is something different. It is an opportunity to see what it's like to walk in the shoes of those that are facing mental illness or substance abuse. It is a chance to see how those services work, what the people offering the services deal with. It is an opportunity for you to gain insight and understanding, the kind that it takes to make true and lasting impact. So I am simply here to just encourage your support for this activity. And I'm also here just to encourage the public support. Thank you.
Brianna Williams.
Good afternoon. I'm here just to let you guys know that I am here. I have a reading for a rezoning, and I wasn't sure how the whole system works. I wanted to sign up and say, when you get to that point, if you have any questions, I'm here and available.
That was our final speaker.
Thank you all for your comments, and thank you, Madam Clerk. We move down to our consent agenda. Please note that there are two matters included on the consent agenda which were approved by virtue of the agenda approval process. Those items are contract number 22-05 and procurement number 24-045. We move down to our public hearings. We have one public hearing this afternoon, and it's regarding ordinance number 24-38. Those who desire to speak regarding ordinance number 24-38, please note that the public hearing is now open for your comments. Seeing no one desiring to speak on ordinance number 24-38, the public hearing is now closed. We'll move on down to our resolutions and proclamations. Resolution number 24-29. Ms. Langston.
Good evening, County Council. Resolution number 24-29 is the declaration of official intent to reimburse for fiscal year 25. This resolution is required so that we can secure our capital lease purchase funding for the CERP for this fiscal year. We have budgeted lease financing in the amount of $1,653,000. And I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Otherwise, we request that you approve Resolution 24-29.
Thank you, Ms. Langston. Any questions from council for Ms. Langston? Seeing none, is there a motion pertaining to ordinance number resolution number 24-29?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It is moved by Council Newton for adoption of resolution number 24-29. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move on down to proclamation number 24-30. Ms. Sierra.
Mr. Chairman, Family Literacy Week is nationally recognized during the week of September the 16th through the 20th, and we were approached by Dr. Paula Anderson, who's the director of the Georgetown County Adult Education Program. She requested that council pass this proclamation, and upon its adoption, Madam Vice Chair has agreed to present Dr. Anderson with the proclamation on September 19th at their back-to-school bash.
Thank you, Ms. Sierra. Any questions for Ms. Sierra from council? Okay, is there a motion for adoption of proclamation number 24-30?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Elliott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Carolina. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Proclamation number 24-30 is adopted. We move on down to our third reading of ordinances. Ordinance number 24-35. Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. Good evening, council. We will do items 8A and 8B together tonight. 1 second. This is a request to rezone one parcel that's almost 9 acres. This is located on the west side of South Fraser Street in the North Santee area, and the request is to rezone this tract from FA to RG, or Rural General Residential. Based on the size of the parcel, it has sufficient area for the RG zoning district and is not considered spot zoning. There is an adjacent RG district just beside this property. The RG zoning does allow for single-family dwellings and mobile homes on 15,000 square foot lots, cluster housing, assisted living facilities, and 2-family dwellings. And this is a low to medium density residential district. The future land use map, the new future land use map as of July shows this property as rural residential, and a change is needed to residential, which is basically our medium density district, in order to facilitate the request. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on June 20th. There was only one person there that spoke besides the applicant, and they voted 4-2 to recommend approval for the rezoning and to recommend an update to the future land use map. We haven't had any changes since second reading. We did, if you'll remember, at second reading on the future land use map, change the wording to reflect the wording in the new land use element. We have added an updated map for your information for item 8A. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions for Ms. Richardson from council? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion for approval of ordinance number 24-35?
So moved.
It's moved by Councilor Carolina. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Newton. Any discussion? Is there a motion to amend the main motion to incorporate the revised language and updated map?
So moved.
It's moved by Councilor Carolina for the amendment. Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Second by Councilor Newton. Any discussion? We'll first vote on the amended motion. Those in favor of the amended motion, please raise your hand. On the amendment, I should say, please raise your hand. Opposed? The amendment is passed. Now we'll go back to the main motion. All those in favor of the main motion with the amendment, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go down to a motion for, you've done it together, right, Ms. Richardson? Ordinance number 24-35 and 36?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So is there a motion for adoption of ordinance number 24-36?
So moved.
It's moved by Councilor Carolina. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Newton. Are there any discussions? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We move on down to ordinance number 24-37. Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. This is item 8C. This is a request to amend the Low Country Plan development at the corner of Wesley Road and 17 Bypass and Merle's Inlet. And this request is to add the use of a medical facility to the list of permitted uses for the PD. And this PD was approved back in 1977. It's currently vacant. And the approved uses currently are eating and drinking establishments, retail shops, business services, offices, and related uses. The applicant plans to develop the site with a freestanding emergency room. That did not fit the list of uses. That's why we have this before you tonight. The surrounding zoning is general commercial zoning and PD. The future land use map shows this area as a commercial corridor, so a change to that map is not needed. The Planning Commission recommended approval for the PD change with the conditions that are listed in number 13 of your report. That vote was 6-0, and there haven't been any changes to this since second reading.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions from council for Ms. Richardson? Seeing none, is there a motion pertaining to ordinance number 24-37?
So moved.
It's moved by Councilor Elliott for approval of ordinance number 24-37. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mercado. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
We move on down to ordinance number 24. Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Ordinance number 24-38. Councilor Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Council, this is simply on third reading on a multi-county industrial park agreement with Horry County. The park's known as Inlet Square. It's a very standard agreement. There's been no changes since second reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Watson. Any questions from council for Attorney Watson? Seeing none, is there a motion pertaining to ordinance number 24-38?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Anderson for adoption of ordinance number 24-38. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We're going down to second reading of ordinances. Ordinance number 24-39. Ms. Richardson.
Brief break there. This is item 9A. This is a request to amend the comprehensive plan, the future land use map for 1,000+ acres on Wild Horse Road. This is for the solar farm expansion that is on your deferral list for tonight, but I wanted to bring this one up. Since this project started and went through the Planning Commission did recommend an amendment to the future land use map to change to public, semi-public. Since then, similar to the earlier request we had, Council approved the new future land use maps. This area is designated for rural residential, which supports the solar farm use with some conditions. So my recommendation here is that you go ahead and withdraw or table this request, as that future land use map amendment will not be needed, whether or not the solar farm rezoning goes through.
So do we want to, you may have Attorney Watson help me with this one. Do you want to withdraw it or have a table? Which is the...
Ms. Richardson and I discussed this. I think at this point, the proper motion would be to table it. It's going to be tabled indefinitely. given the status of it at this time, and then whether it needs to be brought back at a later date or entirely withdrawn, we could address. But at this stage, given the other factors involved, motion to table indefinitely.
Thank you. You've heard the request from staff. Is there a motion to table ordinance number 24-39?
So moved.
It's moved by Councilor Carolina. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. And as you stated, ordinance number 24-40 has been deferred. We are going down to ordinance number 24-41, Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. This is a request to amend the zoning map for a parcel located at 58 Channel Bluff Avenue in Pawleys from R10, or 10,000 square foot residential, to neighborhood commercial NC. The parcel is currently vacant. The applicant, as he stated earlier, also owns 3 adjacent properties to the west, and that is where his Dunes Realty office is located. I did want to point out that the applicant met with the neighbors, the surrounding property owners, back on August 12th, just prior to our planning commission meeting on this topic as well. Back in February, council approved a rezoning request to take these 3 properties that he currently owns and rezone them to neighborhood commercial to facilitate the existing business and in order to allow for an expansion of the business. In June of this year, the applicant purchased the property at 58 Channel Bluff and is now requesting to also rezone that to NC to allow for an expansion of the operation. And as he said, the plan is for this parcel to only contain parking and associated storage for the business. The surrounding zoning is NC to the west and R10 to the north, south, and east. R10, as you know, allows for single-family dwellings. It does not allow for mobile homes, and the lot size is 10,000 square feet. Neighborhood commercial zoning allows for a variety of commercial uses like professional and business uses. It does eliminate some more intense highway commercial uses like a gas station or a drive-through restaurant, for example. There is a larger setback with the NC. NC has a 50-foot front yard. R10 has a 25-foot. Any new structures on this parcel will have to comply with the Wacomianek overlay zone for architectural standards. The existing parcel is 8,320 square feet, so it is non-conforming in lot size. The applicant is intending to combine this lot with his other lots, so it would be conforming in terms of lot size. The property is located in an AE and an X flood zone, and the future land use map designates the applicant's parcels as both commercial corridor and residential RES. A level 3 buffer would be required against the adjacent single-family development if the property is rezoned. As was stated earlier, there is a significant live oak on the property, and the applicant is proposing to save that with the development of the parking lot. This would not be considered spot zoning based on the adjacent neighborhood commercial district. Combining the lot, as I said, would do away with the nonconformity based on the lot size. This parcel in question is located on the boundary in the new map between the commercial corridor and the residential place types. It's about 270 feet from Highway 17. We think the small size of the parcel and its location on the boundary make it an appropriate use, and we're not recommending a change to the future land use map. Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 15th. 6 members of the public and the members of the surrounding neighborhood did speak, objecting to the request. After hearing from the applicant and some discussion, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval with a vote of 6-1. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions from council for Ms. Richardson?
Yes, Ms. Richardson, what was the complaints by the 6 members that spoke?
Property values, traffic. I think the overall concern was kind of commercial encroachment coming further back into their neighborhood. There was a good bit of talk about traffic, small children in the area, those kind of things.
That, you said that is the boundary line, correct?
Yes.
With residential and commercial?
Yes.
Holly, this is going to be used for an office, right? So like 9 to 5 kind of thing. So not weekends or.
That's my understanding. Now, it is a realty office, so I don't know if they've got pickups or changeovers on Saturdays, perhaps.
But it's not going to be like a 24-hour service.
No, sir.
So it's not going to impact the neighborhood that much.
Correct. And actually, this, again, based on the site plan that was provided, this parcel itself would only be used for parking and some storage, outside storage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Richardson from council? Okay, is there a motion pertaining to ordinance number 24-41?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman McConnell for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Oppose? Okay, motion carries. Okay, we'll move down to ordinance number 24-43. Ms. Richardson.
9D and 9E I will take together as well. Sorry. This involves two parcels on Old PD Road. They're located about 1,000 feet southeast of Hill Road in Hemingway, and the request here is to go from FA, or Forest and Agriculture, to Limited Industrial LI. Both the parcels are currently zoned FA. There is a vacant structure on the smaller parcel, and the larger parcel is vacant. It's our understanding that the vacant structure was there prior to, as you'll recall, this section of the county was not zoned until 2008, and that structure certainly predates zoning in that area. The surrounding zoning is FA everywhere, on all sides. The existing uses are residential homes, forest lands, and farmlands. The closest residence is located right across Old PD Road, about 240 feet away, and it's my understanding that that is also on property that's owned by the applicant, Ms. Williams. This parcel is 5.8 acres. That is sufficient land area for the LI zoning district. There is a concern of spot zoning here since the closest other LI district is a good 20 plus miles away, and that one is significantly larger than this area that's proposed for rezoning. I will say, like I said, it does meet the minimum lot size for LI. It's just not as large as our typical LI zoning districts in other areas. The current FA zoning would allow for farms, golf courses, bed and breakfast establishments, single-family homes, landscaping on 1 acre lots. The proposed LI zoning allows for agricultural farms, nurseries, office buildings, commercial, vocational schools, lumber processing, sales. Also allows a number of conditional uses that are more industrial in nature, including garages, repair shops, and tattoo shops. LI has setbacks of 50 in the front and 30 from the sides and the rear. There is an additional height that's also allowed in an LI district. Based on the surrounding vacant property, buffers would not be required. There would be, of course, buffers required as part of the parking, but not as a buffer against adjacent property because that property isn't developed at this time. This is not located in a flood zone. Of course, we do not currently have sewer service at this location. There are water lines within a mile of the property. They would need to work with the district to either extend those lines or provide a well on the site in order to have water. This site is shown on our future land use map as rural village. We think that in order to have industrial zoning, that would require a change to our employment designation. Employment is sort of the new title for industrial in our new map. Remember, we don't have any designation of industrial. It's now referred to as an employment zone. The proposed rezoning to LI and a future land use map amendment to employment designation is very different than what's in the surrounding area. This is sort of on the end of the county. There's not much out there. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 15th. No one other than the applicant spoke. And at that time, there was discussion about the historical use of the property. Apparently, it was used industrially in the past, and I think the commission felt like that perhaps if that had been known, it might would have been zoned industrial originally in 2008 when the property was zoned initially. So the Planning Commission then voted 6-1 to recommend approval for the rezoning request and for the future land use map amendment.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions for Ms. Richardson regarding ordinance number 24-43?
Holly, way back in the day, this was a plastics plant, right?
That's my understanding.
That's what I thought.
I don't go back that far, but it's my understanding that they used it for a plastics plant.
I grew up in that area. That's what it was.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion pertaining to ordinance number 24-43?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilor Newton for approval of ordinance number 24-43. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. And we'll move on down to ordinance number 24-44. Is there a motion for approval of ordinance number 24-44?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Newton for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's go down to ordinance number 24-45, Ms. Richardson.
Yes, sir. This is a request to amend the comprehensive plan to adopt a new element and a new introductory section to the comprehensive plan as a whole. This is the priority investment element. It is not an element that we currently have in our plan. It's a new requirement, so this information is not a rewrite because, like I said, this element hasn't been in our plan before. It is a required element under the Enabling Act of 1994, as updated, of course. And we also need an update to the introductory section, so that's why that is included with this one as well. You can see the language there from the state that tells us we need to have a priority investment element. It requires analyzing basically federal, state, and local funds and looking at how those funds will be used and expended in the next 10 years for matters of public infrastructure and other facilities like water and sewer and schools, of course. I wanted to quickly read the statement from the introduction of the priority investment just because I think it gives a good overall idea of what exactly this element is about. The purpose is to inventory and evaluate available funding sources and anticipated revenues in order to finance public infrastructure and facilities that are recommended throughout the comp plan. As communities grow, the demands placed on supporting infrastructure continue to rise and eventually necessitate additional capacity improvements to maintain adequate levels of service. This element helps to outline a strategic and prioritized approach to address key aspects of community development, infrastructure enhancement, and resource conservation within Georgetown County, and to tie these needs to the other elements of the plan. Obviously, I don't need to talk to you about the capital project sales tax, but that is included in this plan because that is a list of kind of prioritized projects that the county has worked on with that as a suggested funding source. So that is included in the appendix here. There is a description of both the CPST and the local option sales tax as potential funding sources. Obviously, we can't say that those are going to occur, but there's language there such that it's included as a source of funding, a potential source of funding. There are 5 main goals and objectives that are listed in the plan, and it also includes a reference back to the other elements of the plan. You know, we've talked a lot about how we have thus far handled our elements separately, but we're still working to bridge those gaps and build those connections. So we've built that into this element to show you where we've pulled a lot of the references from the other elements, and those are listed in the objectives. We did solicit input from stakeholders, including multiple county departments, certainly finance, administration, and Mr. Ackerman were involved, especially with the inclusion of the CPST. We also reached out to other organizations and adjacent communities as required by the Act, and their feedback has been included in this document. This is a third draft that reflects some of those changes that we received. If you'll recall, this is a comp plan change, so it did require a recommendation from the Planning Commission, and it will require a public hearing before final approval. This is nearing the completion of the comp plan for us, the priority investment element, and then the natural resource element, which we will talk about at our next meeting, are the 2 that are remaining. We also had an introductory section in our comprehensive plan that had not been updated even with the last revision. So I wanted to take this opportunity with this last new element to come through to make those changes. That is also included in your packet. It's basically an overview. I don't think there's any new information in there. It talks about the history of planning. There's some information on what state law requires, the benefits of the plan, what process we've used this go around to update the plan, and what the structure is. We've also included the dates of when each element was approved. We'll need to tweak that once we get new dates for the PIE and the natural resource element. I also included the vision statement from the land use element in this plan, and there is a good bit of language in there about the need for implementation of the plan and moving forward with zoning ordinance updates and all those things that we've already talked about. The commission also held a public hearing on this plan at their last meeting and the introduction, and they voted 7-0 to recommend approval for both. And they are included in one ordinance as it's in your packet.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions from council for Ms. Richardson pertaining to ordinance number 24-45?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to let everybody know that I was out of the state when we had this workshop. And before I vote, I want to be briefed on this. I've got a lot of questions. So I will be abstaining on second reading and be ready for third.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there a motion pertaining to ordinance number 24-45?
So moved.
Is moved by Councilor Carolina for approval of ordinance number 24-45. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Any abstention? One abstention, Councilor Anderson? One abstention?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Motion carries. We'll move on down to ordinance number 24-46. Richardson.
Yes, sir. This is a request that came out of a motion from this council back in the July meeting when you approved the land use element of the comprehensive plan. And we were asked to look at the GR General Residential Zoning District and to match the maximum density level of that district with the highest level in the new land use element, which is a community mixed use designation. The highest level of density shown in the new land use element is 8 to 12 units per acre. That's in the community mixed use place type. I did want to point out the CMU place type on the map is located in very few areas. And the majority of those are in locations where we already have that type of development or there is already that type of development approved. While the future land use map place types are used for policy making and future rezoning decisions, as we've said many times before, it is the actual zoning classification that will regulate the amount of density that's allowed. So just because we may have something showing with a different designation on our new map, if it's still zone GR, then what's allowed in GR is what's allowed on the site. The current text for the general residential districts, and again, we're talking about GR countywide here, regulates the density for multifamily units based on the number of stories and the number of bedrooms. And the chart that's in your ordinance shows you that. It is a little bit confusing, but basically it says, for example, if you have a one-bedroom studio apartment, then you're required to have this much square feet on the lot. So however many units you have to add up that square footage, and that tells you how big that lot or the tract has to be. The maximum allowance in that chart is currently at 16 units per acre. We did sort of a brief survey of some recently approved multifamily developments in our area. There are, I'm going to say 2.5, because one is half of a project, basically that exceed the proposed 12 unit per acre maximum. Most of our townhome developments usually fall within 6, 7, 8 units per acre. It's basically the three-story the multi-story developments, 3 stories, where we can get between 11 and 14.5 units per acre. That's about where our projects are maxing out. The proposed ordinance in front of you shows a reduction in the number of units per acre by requiring 3,600 square feet per unit for all of the unit types that exceed 12 units per acre. So basically, when in the chart, look at the ones that exceeded 12 units per acre and bump them up to 3,600 square feet so that that would be the new maximum. By amending the section as shown, any parcel that's currently zone GR and proposed for new development would fall under the 12 unit per acre maximum. The approved land use element, if you will recall, also proposed density bonuses for affordable housing, and the proposed text includes an additional 2 to 4 units per acre for developments if at least 20% of the proposed units provide affordable or workforce housing. And you can see how those are defined in the element in number 7. The land use element recommends updating the zoning ordinance and the maps to implement the policy goals that are provided in the plan. And you have graciously provided funds to do that, and that process will be beginning very soon, but it will take some time. This proposed text change would, in the meantime, drop the density from 16 down to 12 and serves as sort of a short-term temporary approach to bring density limits for multifamily developments in line with the maximum level of the comp plan. It also would provide some of a mechanism for affordable housing incentives. Planning Commission held a public hearing on this change on August 15th. There was no one that spoke at the public hearing, and after some discussion, the commission voted 6-1 to recommend approval for the text change. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions for Ms. Richardson regarding ordinance number 24-46?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I've got a question. Holly, when this was originally my motion, and over time, obviously, since I've been on council, there's been a lot of issues with high-density development on the neck, specifically in Parkersville. What would it take to update this motion and basically amend GR on the Wacomineck from the 12 that's proposed to 5?
To 5 units per acre?
Yes, ma'am.
At a maximum? I think that is significant enough a change. You're kind of taking the focus from countywide down to a specific area, a specific number of parcels, and basically taking that 16 units per acre and reducing it down to a third, a little more than a third. I think that is a significant enough change that it would need to be advertised as such and go back through the process. The advertisement, of course, talked about maximum density. The public hearing was on the 16 to 12. That would be my opinion.
Thank you. And thanks for the work that you did to get it to where we're at right now.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions for Ms. Richardson?
Yeah, I did.
Chair, I've got a question for you.
I wanted to ask Holly now, so what's the mechanics of doing this again, please?
I think if we're looking at 5 units to the acre on the Wacomineck,
Yeah, that's for multifamily.
yes, sir, then we would put that in our ad for the next meeting and our public notice. Text changes to the zoning ordinance have to be public noticed as such. And then we would ask the Planning Commission to revisit that item at their next meeting, and I would bring it back to you.
And your next meeting is?
They meet next week, but there isn't enough time to notice it for that meeting. It would be back at their October meeting.
So does it need to be deferred then, what we're doing here, making this move tonight? If we're not going to amend it, do we defer it?
Mr. Chair, if it's possible, what I'd like to do, and I'd defer to council, is to motion to have it sent back to Planning Commission with an update to decrease GR from 12 to 5, only pertaining to the Wacomineck.
Okay, I think she directed the question to council as to whether the requested change can only apply to Wacomineck and not the rest of the county.
I'd want to look into that. You're asking for a specific change here, and I think given the significance of the change, Ms. Richardson, sorry, I just put a piece of candy in my mouth. Ms. Richardson is correct. I think it's significant enough it needs to run back through the process. Mr. Chairman, I think the question you asked was whether you could do this specific to this area only. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
I'd want to look into that before I gave you an answer at this time. But I think if the council is going to approve Ms. Mercado's motion, it's going to come off at this point anyway and go back through the process, and that's going to take, well, I think she said October meeting and then back up to council. I think at this point you have 2 issues before you. One, Ms. Mercado, did you already make the motion? Did you move?
To amend it to go, or I guess send it back to Planning Commission.
You have already stated your motion, is that correct?
To amend it.
Do you have a motion on the table?
Yes.
Okay, so you have a motion on the table. If that's approved, then this matter would be deferred until that is brought back to council with the proposed amendment. And then I think it would look like some of your other items. You've got the main motion, you've got an amendment, then you vote on the main and the amended or the main as amended.
Okay, all right. We have a motion from Council Mercado. Will you restate your motion?
To amend the GR Section 607 from the 12 units that's on the current land use element to 5 specifically on the Waccamaw for GR.
Okay, we have a motion from Council Mercado. You heard the motion. I'm trying to understand it, but you heard a motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? Let me just ask, so just as a matter of correctness, I guess. What would we have to do with the motion? Well, there's no motion pertaining to the ordinance as stated, the ordinance number 24-46 as stated. She's making a motion to amend it to refer it back to the planning commission, right? And we have a second on that. So as far as the discussion goes, what happens to the item as presented by the planning, from Ms. Richardson in front of us now?
Well, I think it depends on what happens. I think it depends on what happens to Ms. Mercado's motion.
Okay.
If that motion passes, then this would be, I'm trying to think, would it be postponed, lay on the table, or deferred? Well, it's not deferred, it's already on your agenda before you. It would be postponed.
Okay.
But then someone would move, in light of her motion, postpone till it comes back up.
Okay, so it'll be more like a deferring the motion as it is presented. We'll pass her motion and defer this one? Postpone.
If you vote on hers, well, you've got one, you're going to vote on it. If that passes,
right,
okay, then it's going to have to go back to Planning Commission. So this motion then would be postponed indefinitely, just be a motion to postpone until it comes back out of Planning Commission, back before council.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further discussion regarding the motion?
Also, should the motion pass, will the language encompass the concerns of the Parkersville community as with density going down from 1612 to 5?
I will certainly relay to the Planning Commission with my report that those concerns were expressed here tonight. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion regarding the amended motion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Now, is there a motion to postpone ordinance number 24-46 as stated in item 9G?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Mercado. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you for your help, Ms. Richardson and Attorney Watson. Okay, we move on down to ordinance number 24-47. Ms. Richardson.
Yes, similarly, this is also a motion that came after the approval of the land use element in your July meeting. And this was a request to look at the approximately 76 acres at the intersection of Highway 707 and Highway 17 in Merle's Inlet, and a proposed change from the CMU Community Mixed Use District to the Commercial Corridor, not district, place type. This area has tracks along Highway 17 bypass, Highway 707 or Burgess Road, Knollwood Court, Mink Avenue, Courtfield Drive, and Old Kings Highway. The zoning for the area today is general commercial, and there are several planned developments in that area. Both the PDs contain commercial uses. There's a hotel, a restaurant, a shopping center. There's also, as I'm sure you're very familiar with the intersection, a gas station there, some retail uses, a car wash, a bank. There's a landscape company further back off Knollwood, and single-family residences. There's some storage buildings and the church and cemetery uses. The CMU designation, which is what this currently has on the recently adopted land use maps, that allows for, and I've included the sheet there in your packet, the integration of housing, retail, and service uses at medium to high densities at significant transportation nodes. The CMU does allow for residential density at 8 to 12 units per acre. And as we said, that is the highest density that the new plan allows. I did not note any current multifamily or high-density uses in the area at this time. Any proposed change to any of the uses in the area would have to either comply with the current general commercial zoning or fit under the existing PD requirements. And if they did not, then that would require a rezoning. Even if someone, if we left it at CMU and, for example, someone proposed rezoning it to high density, it would still have to go through a zoning change because, again, the approval of the uses is based on the zoning. What is being proposed here is the commercial corridor place type. That's defined as being located along major transportation routes and primarily includes community or regional retail or service uses, as well as some attached residential and mixed-use buildings. The residential density in the commercial place type caps out at 2 to 4 units per acre. There is an allowance for 6 units if there is mixed use. And as a reminder, our current general commercial zoning also allows for single-family homes up to 4 units per acre. I think that the existing uses on the site at this intersection would be supported by the proposed commercial corridor designation. If we do redesignate this area from CMU to CC, that would decrease the recommended allowable density in this area if there was a future rezoning proposed for higher density development. Then this change would not support that, or it would only support it up to 6 units per acre at mixed use levels. Again, the redesignation here won't change the current zoning. Until it's changed, GC and PD zoning will still be in place. If you review this area, I think there are several items and buildings there that are relatively recently constructed. We don't anticipate redevelopment in the near future for those, but there are some vacant tracts there are some single-family homes that may lend themselves to development in the future or redevelopment. And like I said, the current uses and the current zoning certainly would be supported by the commercial corridor designation. Changing the development this way would reduce the amount of land that is available for higher density residential development on the Waccamaw Neck. The Planning Commission held a public hearing back in August. No one spoke for the public hearing, and they recommended unanimously for the change to the future land use map.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Any questions from council for Ms. Richardson pertaining to ordinance number 24-47? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval of ordinance number 24-47?
So moved.
Moved by Council Elliott. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Council Mercado. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We move on down to our first reading of ordinances, which will be read into the record only, by title only. First, ordinance number 24-48, amendment to the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget ordinance. Then we have ordinance number 24-49, an ordinance to amend Chapter 6 of the Georgetown County Code of Ordinances governing boats, public docks, and waterways to regulate abandoned watercraft. We move down to approval of minutes from our August 27th, 2024 meeting. Is there a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Council Mercado. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Johnson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any further business coming before council this evening? Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
It's moved by Council Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Elliott. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? We stand adjourned.